picture this, a world where pirates rule the seas, a devil fruit gives you superpowers, and a straw hat is the most badass accessory that you can own. Welcome to the East Blue Saga, where it all began. Now let's see if this classic still holds up. So how the hell did we get here? Well, it all started with the king of the pirates, Gold D. Roger, being set to be executed. Instead of crying for his mommy and daddy like any normal person would, he shouted out about a treasure that he hid called the One Piece. And this set everybody on an expedition. Now we've got every idiot thinking that they can become the Pirate King. Enter our main moron, Monkey D. Luffy. This dipshit ate something called a devil fruit that gave him rubber powers. You heard me right. This moron is made of rubber. It's as dumb as it sounds, but at least it's not boring. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Devil fruits, the truth is, give you superpowers, yes, but they also remove your ability to swim. But the funny thing about Luffy is, before he ate the devil fruit, he still couldn't swim. So Luffy's just stupid. That's the truth. But the kicker is that he can't swim. You know, he wants to be a pirate and everything, but he can't swim. Hey, how the hell did he end up with the crew? And also, how did he end up with that raggedy straw hat? Well, truth is, that story is just about as a mess as you think it would be. Let's rewind to when Luffy was just a snot-nosed brat and pre-devil fruit, shall we? Enter a man named Shanks. He's this red-haired pirate that's the coolest thing since sliced bread to Luffy, and that's saying a lot. Shanks and his crew roll up into Luffy's village like they own the place, and Luffy is just instantly starstruck. Now picture this, Shanks and his crew are just chilling at a local bar, probably drinking enough booze to kill a horse, when Luffy struts in with all this, "I want to be a pirate," and shit. What are you doing? Come here. He's gagged. Now picture this. Shanks and his crew are just kicking at the bar, probably drinking enough booze to kill a horse, when all of a sudden Luffy struts in. Like he's all hot stuff. And Luffy's all like, "I want to be a pirate." And Shanks is just laughing at him because he's a little dumbass. But this is the part where it gets good. You see, Luffy, in all of his infinite wisdom, to prove how tough he is, stabs himself in the face with a knife. You heard me right. Kid's genius. So, while Shanks is freaking out over this dumbass little kid who's bleeding all over the place, Luffy decides to bury his face in some fruit. A devil fruit, to be exact. You know, the thing that gives you superpowers and makes you sink like a rock when you swim? Yeah, that's the one. And Luffy didn't even know what hit him until he stretched like a piece of gum and everybody freaked out. "Get on the camera!" Shanks, being the responsible adult that he is, and I use that term loosely, freaks the fuck out. He's all, "You idiot, that's the gum fruit, now you'll never be able to swim!" And Luffy's just sitting there, probably thinking about stretching his boogers or something equally stupid. But wait, it gets better. Some mountain bandits show up and start talking smack about Shanks' crew, and then Luffy starts mouthing off like the little shit stirrer he is. Next thing you know, the bandits are back for round 2, taking Luffy, and Luffy's about to become Bandit Chow, when all of a sudden Shanks shows up like a goddamn superhero. Now, here's where Shanks proves he's not just a drunk pirate with cool hair. One of the lead bandits' lackeys pulls a gun on Shanks, threatens him. So then what does Shanks do? He stands there, unfazed! And Lucky Roo, the big fat one we see in a couple scenes, blows the bandit's Goonies' brain out. It's over, just like that. He's dead. But here's the kicker. The bandit leader, like the real coward he is, grabs Luffy and throws him into the ocean. You remember how I said devil fruit users can't swim? Yeah, so Luffy is sinking like a damn hammer when Shanks dives in and saves him, but he loses an arm in the process to a sea monster. This whole set of events leaves a big impression on Luffy, and Luffy just feels like the biggest asshole in the world. But what does Shanks do? He grins, and he says, "It's just an arm." I mean, really, who needs 2 arms anyway, right? Now here's where the ratty old straw hat comes into play. Shanks takes the straw hat off of his head and plops it down onto a crying Luffy and says, "Bring this back to me when you become a great pirate." It's like some weird version of pirates passing the torch. Instead of a torch though, it's a straw hat that's probably seen more shit than a porta potty at a music festival. This moment right here is what sets Luffy on his path to become the king of the pirates. It's not just about some hat. It's about the promise. And this promise and this hat means more to Shanks than any treasure or gold ever could. So fast forward 10 years later, and Luffy's ready to set sail. He's got his stretchy powers, he's got his hat, and he's got his dream bigger than his appetite, which is saying a lot. But there's only 3 problems. He doesn't have a boat, he doesn't have a crew, and he has no idea how to navigate. But hey, details, right? So there you have it. That's how a rubber-brained idiot who can swim came into possession of a very, very famous hat, and with that, a dream of becoming the Pirate King. Yeah, I know, it's a clusterfuck of an origin story, but it's Luffy's clusterfuck, and it sets the stage for all the stuff that's about to go down in this saga. Now you'd think that after 10 years that Luffy might have learned something, like how to sail a damn boat. But no, he didn't. Luffy's grand plan starts with him drifting aimlessly in a barrel, because of course it does. Picture this. Our rubber-brained hero, all grown up, ready to conquer the seas, floating around like a piece of driftwood. Yeah, I know, not the most badass entrance you'd expect from the future Pirate King, but hey, that's Luffy for ya. That idiot probably thinks that he's a genius for coming up with such a plan. So there he is, bombing along in his barrel, when all of a sudden, bam, he crashes into a cruise ship. But this isn't just any cruise ship. Oh no, no. This clusterfuck of a ship is run by the world's angriest beach ball, Lady Alvida. Think of a woman so round and mean that she makes a cannonball look cuddly. Now, Alvida's got this crew of spineless dipshits, and among them is a pink-haired kid named Coby. And Coby is about as useful as a screen door in a submarine. I mean, he's scared out of his own shadow and has the dreams of becoming a marine, which is kind of like a sheep wanting to be a wolf. But listen, the kid's got a goal. So Luffy pops out of his barrel like some rubbery jack-in-the-box, probably scaring the shit out of Coby and the rest of Alvida's crew. And what does Luffy do after this? Luffy begs for food, because apparently drifting in the ocean in a barrel for however long, it works up an appetite. But damn, does this kid have his priorities straight. Coby, being the spineless jellyfish that he is, decides to help Luffy out. Maybe it's because he finally found somebody dumber than him, or maybe he's just happy to be talking to somebody that isn't shaped like a wrecking ball. Either way, they hit it off. Now here's where it gets good. Luffy decides to tell Coby about his dream of becoming the Pirate King, and Coby, bless his little cowardly heart, laughs at him. You would think that laughing at somebody who could stretch his fist through your face would be a bad idea. But Luffy, like the moron he is, just grins at him. But wait, it gets better. Coby goes on and on about how his dream is about becoming a marine and how it's impossible, how he's too weak, how Alvida will kill him. And Luffy, being the simple-minded fool he is, pops the million-berry question. Why don't you just leave? You can practically see the gears turning in Coby's pea-sized brain. It's like watching a caveman discover fire for the first time. The idea of just walking away from all of his problems is so mind-blowing, Coby's probably gonna have an aneurysm. But before Coby can have his existential crisis, guess who comes in? That's right, the human wrecking ball herself, Lady Alvida. She comes crashing through, probably destroying half the ship in the process, and demands to know who Luffy is. Now, most people would be intimidated by a woman who looks like she eats cannonballs for breakfast, but not Luffy. This rubber-brained moron sits there, picks his nose, calls her an ugly old hag to her face. Now, here's where things get interesting, because the crew doesn't know whether to laugh or to go run and hide, because now they're just gonna brawl. And that's a problem. Alvida, as you might expect, does not take too kindly to being called ugly. She's probably used to her crew pissing themselves in fear, and not some scrawny kid in a straw hat calling her ugly. So, Alvida decides to do what any self-respecting pirate would do. She tries to bash Luffy's brains in. But if you guys remember, Luffy's made out of rubber because of his devil fruit. So when Alvida tries to, bash his brains in, it bounces off, well, like rubber. And so now Alvida's like, what the hell is going on? You're a freak, blah, blah, blah. And Luffy just starts, in true Luffy fashion, winding up a gum pistol. And fires it off, and it looks like almost as if a beach ball got hit by a freight train. Lady Alvida goes flying off into the ocean and probably creating a new island along with it. With Alvida out of the picture now, Luffy turns to Coby and says, hey, you wanted to be a marine? All right, let's go. And so just like that, no grand speech, no words of wisdom, just a rubber-brained idiot telling this coward that he should chase his dreams. And you know what? It works. Coby was too scared to leave Alvida's crew. And now that somebody has gotten rid of her for him, it's made it a whole lot easier for him to chase his dreams. And you know what? Coby finally grows a spine and decides to follow Luffy. He's probably still shaking in his boots, but hey, who wouldn't be shaking in their boots? So there you have it. Luffy's first recruitment isn't even for his own crew. Instead, he inspires a cowardly child to join up with the very organization that's supposed to stop pirates. But hey, that's Luffy for ya. He doesn't just break the rules, he doesn't even know they exist. But hold on to your straw hat, because Luffy is about to one-up himself in the stupid department. Imagine walking to a town, hearing about this bad stuff that this marine guy is doing, and then you peek over the fence of the marine base and you see a guy tied up to a post. Luffy thinks to himself, hey, that's the guy I want to pick. He's called Pirate Hunter? How cool. Let me get him as my nakama. God, this is gonna be a train wreck, isn't it? So, here we are in Shellstown. This is the kind of place where the Marines are about as straight as a drunk guy's walk home. This is the kind of place you would expect to find pirates running amok, but instead you've got Marines acting like they're auditioning for the Douchebag of the Year award. And in the middle of the circus is a green-haired swordsman tied to a post like a human scarecrow. Now, most people would look at this guy tied up in the middle of a Marine base and think, huh, must be bad. But no, not our rubber-brained captain. No, Luffy looks at this human popsicle stick and thinks to himself, yeah, that's the guy I want watching my back while I'm asleep, because nothing speaks trustworthy crewmate like, I don't know, being caught by the most incompetent Marines. So who's this discount lawn ornament? Well, this is Rowanoa Zoro, the pirate hunter. Yeah, you heard me right. The guy that Luffy is dead set on recruiting to his crew is known for turning pirates into marine chew toys. But hey, that's Luffy logic for ya. Now you might be wondering, what kind of badass swordsman gets himself tied up by Marines? Well, buckle up, because this is where it starts to get good. You see, Shellstown is run by this walking chin with the name Captain Morgan. Picture a guy with an axe for a hand and an ego bigger than the Grand Line. This asshole's got the whole town trembling in their boots, probably because they're afraid he'll chin them to death or something. But wait, it gets better. Morgan's got a son named Helmeppo, and Helmeppo is like if you gave a wet mop a human form and then a superiority complex. This kid's strutting around like he owns the place, which technically his daddy does. But talk about riding on your daddy's coattails, huh? So here's the kicker. Zoro didn't get tied up for being a badass pirate hunting swordsman. No, he got tied up because he didn't like Helmeppo's ugly mug. And I can't say that I blame him, really. Helmeppo was just strutting around with his pet wolf, letting it terrorize the townsfolk, and Zoro decided that enough was enough. So, one dead wolf later, now Helmeppo and Zoro are striking a deal. Helmeppo gets to tie him up for 1 month, and if Zoro survives, he'll let the whole wolf situation slide. Now, most people would have told Helmeppo where to shove his deal, but Zoro, this muscle-headed mossball, agreed. Why? Because Zoro's got more honor than brain cells, apparently. So, there Zoro is, tied to a post, baking in the sun, and probably regretting every single life decision he's ever made up until this point. Now, re-enter Luffy and Coby. Coby's following Luffy like he's a little lost puppy. And, you know, Luffy looks at Zoro and is like, yep, this is the one that I want on my crew, because nothing says reliable first mate like being one sunburn away from being jerky. Luffy, being the social genius that he is, says, hey, want to join my pirate crew? And Zoro, with more common sense than I thought he had, tells Luffy to piss off. But Luffy's not taking no for an answer. He's like a rubber band. The harder you push, the harder he snaps back. Meanwhile, Coby's having a meltdown. He's wanted to be a Marine all of his life, and now he's face to face with reality. The Marines are about as noble as a dumpster fire. He's thinking to himself, maybe I should have just stuck with Alvida. At least she'd be honest about being a piece of shit. But Luffy? Luffy could care less about the Marine's reputation. He's got his eyes on the prize, and that prize is a grumpy swordsman who's probably hallucinating from all the dehydration by now. But our rubber idiot's determined to free Zoro, so that way he miraculously joins the crew. Because, you know, Stockholm Syndrome is a great foundation for a lifelong friendship. So Luffy, with every brain cell he has left, goes walking through the front door of the Marine base to get Zoro's swords. And for some reason, to Luffy, sneaking in means marching through the front door like you own the place. But You know, all of these Marines are so used to being in fear of Captain Morgan and his chin that they don't actually know what to do with this rubber idiot. Alright, now that Luffy's busy playing hide and seek for Marine intelligence, you know, because there's not really a whole lot there, Helmeppo decides to go back on his word. Turns out, Helmeppo never actually intended to keep his promise to Zoro. I know, shocker. Who would have thought that the son of a corrupt Marine captain would be such a shitbag, right? Luffy, overhearing this, decides to do what any rational, insane person would do. He punches Helmeppo in the face. It's kind of like watching a fist hit a wet paper bag. Helmeppo goes down faster than Alvida goes down a slide, and Luffy's left to wonder whether or not he hit him too hard or if Helmeppo's just that pathetic. Back at the execution yard, Zoro is starting to have a change of heart. Maybe it's the severe heat stroke, or maybe it's because Luffy rolled a nat 20 on his persuasion check. Either way, Zoro agrees to become crewmates with Luffy. And all it took was the threat of execution, a rubber idiot who didn't take no for an answer, and what else? Maybe the severe dehydration. Yeah, you know, great recruitment tactics. Just like that. Now hold on, the fun's not over yet. Captain Morgan, realizing that his human lawn ornament is about to make a frickin' break for it, decides to make a show out of it. So he commands a bunch of men to shoot down Luffy and Zoro, because nothing says justice like shooting a tied up man and a rubber-brained idiot with a straw hat. Now this is where Luffy really shines. And by shines, I mean does something so stupid, it actually works. Luffy jumps in front of the bullets, letting them hit his rubber body, and then he bounces them right back at the Marines. Zoro, finally free and armed with the swords, decides to show us why he's called the Pirate Hunter. He takes on a whole squad of Marines like they're wet tissue paper. It's almost impressive. Until you realize that these are the same Marines that didn't know how to deal with the rubbery dumbass in a straw hat. And then there's the main event, Luffy versus Morgan. Morgan's swinging his axe hand around like he's trying to cut down a particularly annoying tree, and Luffy's just bouncing, probably having the time of his life. The fight ends about as well as you would expect between a stretchy idiot and a man with delusions of grandeur and an axe for a hand. Luffy knocks Morgan out cold, probably improving his personality in the process. Now, Shellstown is free from Captain Morgan's reign, and all it took was a rubber idiot, a moss-headed swordsman, and a complete disregard for Marine authority. You think Luffy's powers are weird? Wait till you meet the nutjob waiting for him in Orangetown. This next pirate makes our rubber-brained fool look completely normal, and trust me, when the baseline for normal is a guy who can stretch like silly putty, you know things are about to get real messed up. Enter Buggy the Clown, a pirate with his nose so red that it could guide Santa's sleigh. This guy's got a devil fruit power that makes Luffy's rubber shenanigans look like child's play. This guy can split his body apart like he's starring in his own twisted magic show. But before we dive into that clusterfuck, let's talk about how Luffy and Zoro stumbled into this mess. They're sailing along, probably arguing about which way is north, because let's face it, neither of these two idiots know how to navigate their way out of a paper bag. That's when they spot a girl who looks about as helpless as a kitten in a rainstorm. Now, most people would be suspicious of a lone girl in the middle of the ocean, but Luffy? No, this rubber-brained idiot sees a damsel in distress and decides to be the hero. Turns out this damsel is about as distressed as a fox in the henhouse. Let's meet Nami, the thief with a hatred for pirates that runs deeper than Buggy's ability to be a pain in the ass. You see, Nami's a real kleptomaniac and has the moral compass that points her in the direction of the nearest treasure chest. When she first meets Luffy and Zoro, she thinks she may have hit the jackpot, but little does she know she's about to enter into a rubber band of chaos that's going to make her rethink every single life decision she's made. Turns out Buggy and his crew have been using Orangetown as their own personal playground, and by playground I mean they've been terrorizing the locals and blowing shit up. Because you know, nothing says I'm a serious pirate like being a toddler with anger problems and access to cannons. Now, Nami, being the opportunistic little minx she is, decides this is the perfect opportunity to steal from the stealers. She's got this brilliant plan to cozy up to Buggy, steal his treasure, and bail faster than Luffy can say meet. But here's the kicker. She needs Luffy's help to do it. So she does what any self-respecting thief would do. She lies her ass off and tells him that she's a part of the crew. Luffy, being the trusting idiot that he is, falls for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Luffy's thinking to himself, wow, I've got a navigator who hates pirates. What's the worst that could possibly happen? Meanwhile, Zoro's probably wondering if it's too late to go back to being tied up on that post in Shellstown. So they crash Buggy's party, and let me tell you, it's about as subtle as a fart in a library. Nami's trying to play it cool, Luffy's excited about the idea of free food, and Zoro is... well, Zoro's sleepy, because that's what you do when you're infiltrating the enemy. You take a goddamn nap. Buggy, being the little paranoid freak that he is, decides to test Nami's loyalty. He slides her a cannon and tells her to blow Luffy to Kingdom Come. Now, Nami's in a real pickle. She's got to decide between her hatred for pirates and her new... let's not call it friendship. Her new reluctant alliance with a rubber brain idiot who's too stupid to realize that she's using him. Does that work for you guys? Just when things are about to go to shit, Zoro wakes up from his beauty sleep and decides to join the party. Zoro comes cutting through Buggy's men like they're just wet paper. Zoro's probably wondering why he decided to follow a captain who likes to tie himself to cannons for fun. And then, because the situation isn't ridiculous enough, Buggy decides to show off his devil fruit powers. The chop chop fruit, he calls it. More like the what the fuck fruit, if you ask me. This clown's splitting himself into pieces, floating around like some demented jigsaw puzzle. Luffy, being the simple-minded fool that he is, finds this interesting and fun. He's probably wondering if he could do the same thing with his rubber powers. Spoiler alert, he can't. But that doesn't stop Luffy from fighting Buggy like he's trying to play a game of whack-a-mole. This fight is a clusterfuck of epic proportions. Buggy's throwing his body pieces around like they're confetti at a messed up parade. Luffy's bouncing around, probably having the time of his life. And Zoro, he's trying to cut a guy who splits faster than a politician changes promises. And Nami, well, she's doing what she does best. She's stealing everything that isn't nailed down while everyone's distracted. But here's where Luffy's rubber brain idiocy comes in clutch. Luffy realizes that even though Buggy can split himself into 1,000,000 pieces, there's one body part that he can't split. And that's his feet, both of them. So what does our genius captain do? He finds Buggy's feet and starts tickling them. I shit you not, the feared pirate, Buggy the Clown, taken down by a tickle attack. While Buggy's distracted by the most ridiculous torture method I've ever seen, Luffy winds up for a new special move, the Gum Gum Bazooka. It's like watching a rubber band snap, but the rubber band is Luffy's arms, and its target, Buggy's big red nose. Buggy goes flying, probably creating a new constellation in the shape of a clown when he finally lands. His crew's in shambles, the town's a wreck, and Nami's made off with enough treasure that she could probably buy her own island. All in a day's work for the future pirate king and his dysfunctional crew. Just when you thought Luffy's crew couldn't get any weirder, we sail into a village that makes Buggy's circus look like a corporate retreat. What kind of place breeds a kid with a nose longer than Pinocchio and a mouth that runs faster than Luffy at an all-you-can-eat buffet? Welcome to Syrup Village, where the lies are sweeter than the name implies, and where the truth is about as rare as a quiet moment on Luffy's ship. So here we are, fresh off of sending a clown into orbit. Our merry band of misfits decide to stop in this backwater town. And who's the first person they meet? A kid named Usopp. This kid has a nose so long that it could double as a harpoon. This kid's got more issues than a comic book store, and a bigger imagination than Luffy trying to count past 10. Now, most people would take one look at Usopp and think, yep, that's the weirdo that's next in line for Luffy's collection of strays. But our rubber brain captain probably thinks this long-nosed liar is the coolest thing since sliced meat. Because of course he does. But hold on to your straw hats, because Usopp isn't just the comic relief in this little twisted drama. You see, turns out, Usopp has a rich friend. And by rich, I mean owns half the village kind of rich. The kind of rich that makes Nami's eyes turn into berry signs. But there's a catch. Isn't there always? Kaya has a butler shadier than Zoro's moral compass. This butler, Clawhador, is about as warm and fuzzy as a sea king with a toothache. He's got a smile that could curdle milk, and a personality that makes Buggy look like a cuddly teddy bear. But here's the thing. This guy isn't just some asshole with a bad attitude. No. He's actually a pirate in disguise, trying to kill Kaya for her fortune. Because apparently, being a butler in a mansion isn't cushy enough for this asshole. So now you've got a situation that's more complicated than Luffy's family tree. On one side, we have a big-nosed liar whose lies are so big that they probably have their own gravitational pull, and on the other, we have a butler who's actually a pirate. I know, it sounds like the setup to a really, really bad joke. And in the middle, we have our crew of misfits, who are probably wondering how they got themselves in the middle of this mess in the first place. Usopp, bless his little lying heart, tries to warn everyone about Klahador's true identity. But here's the kicker. When you've spent your whole life crying wolf, nobody's gonna believe you when there's actually a wolf. And in this case, it's a butler pirate who has a murder boner. Meanwhile, Luffy and the gang are trying to figure out how to stop this fake butler. And by trying to figure out, I mean Luffy's probably picking his nose, Zoro's taking a nap, and Nami's probably trying to figure out a way to profit from this whole fiasco. Huh. Real A-team. Huh, folks. But wait, it gets dumber. Usopp's grand plan to stop Klahadore and his pirate crew is to use oil and caldrops. Yeah, you heard that right. His grandmaster strategy is to pull the kind of prank that you would on your drunk uncle at the family barbecue. Surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, given how the adventure's going, the oil actually works for about 5 seconds, and then Klahadore's crew realizes that they can just walk around the oil slick, because apparently they have more brain cells than Usopp gave them credit for. It's a stunning moment of competence in a sea of stupidity. But don't worry, folks, just when you thought the plan wasn't ridiculous enough, Luffy decides to step in. And by step in, I mean he decides to take a big nap before the big confrontation. Because nothing says, I'm here to save the day, like falling asleep. Maybe he's trying to summon Zoro's spirit animal. When Luffy finally decides to join the land of the living, he starts doing what he does best. Throwing punches like they're going out of style. It's a sight to behold. This rubber-brained idiot taking on a crew of hardened pirates. And then there's Klahadore, or should I say Captain Kuro. He's got a fighting style that's about as subtle as Luffy's table manners. He's got these gloves that have swords for fingers, like he's Edward Scissorhands' evil pirate cousin. He's slicing and dicing everything in sight, including his own crew. But here's where Luffy's rubber-brained idiocy comes in clutch for the second time. You see, while Kuro's going around slicing shit, Luffy's acting like a pinball. He's going bouncing wall to wall, and Kuro is grinding the gears in his head, thinking how he's gonna stop a giant rubber band. The fight turns into a clusterfuck, let's be honest, and Kuro is bouncing around faster than Nami can count stolen treasure, slicing up his own crew in the process. Luffy's bouncing around like a goddamn pinball, like I said earlier, and he's having the time of his life. And Usopp, man, Usopp thinks he's just hallucinating the whole situation. But here's where Luffy shows why he's the main character of this circus. You see, in the middle of Kuro zooming around, Luffy realizes that he's got the sight of a drunk bat. So what does he do? He grabs his face and introduces it to his fist. While all this is going on, Usopp is having his own character arc. He's not screaming and running around like a little bitch. He's actually standing up for his village. It's like watching a caterpillar turn into a butterfly. If the butterfly was still a coward, but less useless. In the end, Luffy team rockets Kuro's ass. The village is saved, Kaya's not dead, and Usopp actually did something useful. It's a miracle, just like Zoro finding his way without getting lost. After all of this, after saving the village and proving that he's not just a liar with a nose that could double as a jousting lance, Usopp decides to become a real pirate, because apparently, almost dying at the hands of a psychotic butler pirate is just the career motivation someone needed. Just when you thought that this story couldn't get any dumber, we're going to talk about a restaurant in the middle of the ocean. Because Luffy can't even eat without it becoming a life or death situation, and you thought your local McDonald's was rough. So here we are, our merry little band on their way, probably arguing about which way is up when they run into the Baratie. Picture this, a giant fish that's part restaurant and the other part fight club. It's like someone took a fancy eatery, slapped some sails on it, and said, huh, fuck, let's find out what happens. Now you'd think that a floating restaurant in the middle of the ocean would be run by somebody like, I don't know, normal people. You know, some retirees looking for a quiet life at sea. No, the Baratie is run by a bunch of ex-pirate chefs who would sooner punch you in the face than ask how you'd like your steak cooked. This is just Gordon Ramsay's nightmare. Enter Sanji, a chain-smoking lover boy who's got a kick so strong it could send you straight to the moon. This guy's got a bigger weakness for women than Luffy does for meat. He's a sous chef of this floating madhouse. And let me tell you, he's about as stable as a goddamn house of cards in a hurricane. Sanji's got this chivalrous pervert thing going on. He'll swoon over any woman who walks through the door, turning into a noodle-armed idiot before you can say love cook. But God help you if you're a man and you piss him off, because he will kick your ass 7 ways to Sunday and then serve you you as the daily special. Now, as typically the story goes, Luffy being Luffy sees this guy and goes, hey, I want you to be my new cook, but Sanji's not having it. You see, Sanji's got a dream about finding this mythical sea called the All Blue, and the All Blue is like the holy grail for chefs. It's where all the fish come together. If the Holy Grail was full of sushi. But wait, it gets better. Just when you think things couldn't get any worse, in walks a pirate named Don Krieg. He's got an ego bigger than the Grand Line and is about as charming as a sea king with indigestion. He got this whole fleet of ships, which, if you ask me, is compensating for something. Krieg's just had his ass handed to him in the Grand Line, and now he's crawling back to the East Blue with his tail between his legs. But instead of, I don't know, contemplating life and thinking about where you went wrong, he decides to steal the Baratie because nothing says I'm a fearsome pirate like taking over a floating red lobster. So now we've got a situation. On one side, we've got the Baratie's violent crew led by Zeph, a man with a peg leg and the mustache to kill you on its own, and on the other, we got Don Krieg's half-dead pirate crew who's probably pissing themselves at the thought of going back to the Grand Line. And of course, in the middle of all this is our rubber brain captain and his crew, because of course they're getting involved. Luffy's probably thinking this is the best dinner theater that he's ever seen, Zoro's itching for a fight, and Nami's probably trying to figure out how she can steal the cash register while Usopp's cowering in the corner. Krieg, being the charming guy that he is, decides to repay the Baratie's hospitality by trying to kill everyone. Yeah, real class act. This guy thinks he's hot shit because he has all these weapons and armor, but here's the thing about Luffy is Luffy doesn't give a flying fuck. He's gonna see this stuff as more things to bounce his fist off of. Krieg's throwing everything he can at Luffy. Spikes, bombs, poison gas, but Luffy, he's bouncing around like a pinball on crack. This is probably the best game he's ever played. Meanwhile, Sanji's busy showing why he's Baratie's combat chef, kicking ass, taking orders, probably making some poor sap's fish fillet while roundhouse kicking a pirate in the mouth. But the best part is that in the middle of all this chaos, Luffy and Sanji start bonding. Sanji's probably thinking to himself that this kid is probably, maybe, perhaps not so bad after all, and Luffy's already trying to figure out where Sanji's going to sleep on the ship. The fight comes to a head when Krieg decides to pull out a ball. Sorry, a ball with a chain, because he thinks we're in the middle of the medieval times in the middle of a torture chamber. Because that makes sense. Krieg is throwing this thing around like he's trying to win a demented game of tetherball, and Luffy's looking at this ball like he can eat it. But here's where Luffy shows once again why he's the main character. Luffy grabs onto the ball and chain, winds himself up like a destructive top, then lets loose, and sends Krieg flying into outer space, just like all those other fucking losers. Sorry about the lighting change, my light died, now the battery's on the charger, so we're gonna have to stick with this for a little bit. Krieg goes down harder than Buggy's nose in a limbo contest, and just like that, the Baratie is saved. Luffy standing there, probably wondering what's for dinner, while everybody else is trying to process what the hell just happened. And Sanji, he's having an existential crisis because of what just happened. On one hand, he has this dream of finding the All Blue and becoming the head chef at the Baratie, but on the other hand, he owes this rubber moron, and the rubber moron's kind of offering him an opportunity to go see the world and find his dream. It's like a rom-com, to be quite honest. In the end, Sanji decides to join Luffy's crew, and just like Usopp, because apparently almost dying at the hands of a pirate with a medieval weapon fetish is just the push you need to chase your dreams. But Sanji says goodbye to the Baratie in true Sanji fashion, getting into a fight with his former family and former chef friends. So, Sanji joins the crew after a little kitchen brawl. Cute, but what if I told you that the next crewmate's origin story makes Mr. Gordon Ramsay look like Mr. Rogers? Picture this. An island enslaved by fishmen, a girl forced to betray her friends, and a past so fucked up that it makes Luffy's story look like a Disney movie. Welcome to Arlong Park, where the local sushi is more likely to eat you than the other way around. Let's join back with our merry band of misfits as they go sailing into this clusterfuck, thinking they're gonna have a grand old time. Spoiler alert, they're not. Let's talk about Arlong for a second. Arlong is a baby between Jaws and the Incredible Hulk, and then that baby grew up to be an asshole. Yep, that's Arlong for ya. This guy's got more teeth than brain cells. And the truth is, this guy gives the entire species a bad name. He probably makes regular fish want to evolve just to kick his ass. So Luffy and the gang roll up to this town that looks like it's been through the worst block party ever. Houses are trashed, people are scared shitless, and there's a lack of something, joy. You know, it's like almost as if all the joy was taken in the world, blended together, and then given to Arlong as a joy smoothie. And where's our favorite kleptomaniac navigator during all of this? Well, she's chilling with the enemy. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't know. Okay, so she's chilling with the enemy, acting like she's besties with Fish Face over there. So just like that, Nami's gone from stealing wallets to stealing our trust, and it stings. But here's where it gets really messed up. It turns out Nami's got a really tragic backstory, and this girl's been playing the long game. She's been working with Arlong to buy her village's freedom back, and by working, I mean, stealing other pirates' treasure like it's going out of style. But I digress. Now, most people would hear Nami's sob story and go, that's rough. But not Luffy. Luffy, being the emotionally intelligent person that he is, sees Nami crying and decides, yep, time to go kick some fishman ass. So him and Zoro and Usopp and Sanji all pull up to Arlong's house and decide, you know what, the only way to fix emotional trauma is just to beat the shit out of whoever caused it. Something I forgot to mention in the Baratie section, as I realized after kind of reading the script, Zoro has actually had a serious injury after a fight with the strongest swordsman in the world, Mihawk. This is something that I forgot to mention in the script, so if you don't know about Mihawk, I'm going to do a quick little thing for you. Meanwhile, Zoro's over here bleeding like a pig from his fight with Mihawk, but does he care? No, I think he's just ready to make some sushi. Usopp's probably pissing himself, but trying to put on a tough face, and Sanji, well, I'm pretty sure he's just glad that there's a damsel in distress to swoon over. Nami's all, no, don't fight them, they're too strong. But it seems that our crew's collective brain cells have seemed to take in a vacation, and so the crew storms Arlong Park like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Arlong's got this whole fishmen are superior spiel going on, and the truth is he probably practices that in the mirror because he's that self-conscious about it. But Luffy's not hearing a single word about it. But the issue is every time Luffy tries to fight, he's being beaten up like a damn rubber chew toy. But the rest of the crew, they're having a great time. Zoro's fighting an octopus who's using 8 swords because apparently normal swordsmen weren't enough of a fight, and Sanji's fighting some Ray dude that probably making fish puns the entire time. And Usopp, yeah, he's running around like a headless chicken and occasionally doing something useful. But the real kicker, Nami's over there watching her friends get their asses handed to them, and she's thinking to herself maybe that she's made a mistake. On her arm, she has a tattoo of Arlong's logo. It's almost like an awful tramp stamp. And she starts clawing at it and stabbing at it, trying to remove it from her skin. Just take a look. And then Luffy does what Luffy does best. He goes and says the dumbest but yet so monumental thing that it could make you cry. He goes over to Nami and says, "You are my friend." Nami, this girl who's been betrayed, used and abused her entire life, finally breaks down. She asks for help, and Luffy, being the rubber brain idiot he is, just puts his hat on Nami and goes to town on Arlong Park. What follows is less of a fight and more of a one-sided destruction of a fish tank. You see, Luffy goes and he starts destroying Arlong Park, stretching and punching and bouncing around like crazy. Arlong's getting madder than a cat in a bathtub, and he's throwing everything he can at Luffy. But here's the thing, you can't break rubber, and you sure as hell can't break Luffy's will. In the end, Luffy sends Arlong down 50 floors, probably giving him a concussion and a newfound appreciation for land lovers. And Arlong Park comes crashing down, and with that, Nami's chains. And just like that, Nami's village is free. People are standing in the streets, probably wondering what the hell happened. Luffy's grinning, and the rest of the crew is wondering how they're not dead. So Nami's village is out celebrating, and Luffy decides he wants to celebrate in a different way. How about a field trip to Pirate Execution Central? Because nothing says future Pirate King like going to the place where the last one lost his head. Welcome to Logue Town, where dreams go to die and pirates go to get their necks stretched. First stop on Luffy's tour of terrible ideas, the execution platform. You know, the spot where Goldie Roger waved goodbye to his head and said hello to legend status. Yeah, most people would look at this thing and go, maybe I should rethink my life decisions. But Luffy, no. This idiot looks at it and goes, ooh, climbing frame. So there he is, scrambling up this death monument like it's a jungle gym, probably giggling to himself all the way up there. And the townsfolk are out there watching, waiting, thinking that they're about to watch history repeat itself. And let's be honest, with Luffy's luck, nothing's out of the question. Meanwhile, the crew is scattered around the town like a bunch of lost puppies. Zoro's wandering in circles, probably telling himself he's going the right way. Nami's going around to every shop trying to buy something because, you know, after near-death experiences, that allows for great retail therapy. Usopp's hiding in a barrel somewhere, and Sanji, of course, he's chasing skirts like it's going out of style. But wait, it gets better. Just when you think this little field trip can't get any more fucked up, guess who decides to show his face? That's right, that big red-nosed bastard, Buggy the Clown. Because apparently getting your ass handed to you the first time wasn't enough. This guy's got more life than a cat with a death wish. Now, most people in this situation would be shitting themselves, but Luffy, no, he's grinning from ear to ear like it's his goddamn birthday. He's up there, seconds away from getting his head lopped off, and he thinks to himself that he's on top of the world. Literally, not probably figuratively. While all this is going down, Zoro finds a playmate, and by playmate, I mean a woman with glasses. Her name's Tashigi, and she has a hard-on for swords. It's kind of like watching two nerds go at it about which action figure is the best, and coming to action figures for here, it's more about things that can do sharp objects that can do bodily harm. Tashigi's all, I'm gonna take your sword, and Zoro's like, okay, come and get it, Four Eyes, try it. And, you know, they're having the time of their life fighting and going back and forth. And Sanji's probably out somewhere crying because he doesn't get to say hello to the pretty lady. Back at the execution platform, things are getting real. Buggy's starting to wind up the finale and probably practicing his evil laugh in his head. And Luffy's still grinning ear to ear like the idiot he is, probably thinking about what's for dinner, when all of a sudden, Mother Nature decides to take her call. Picture this, Buggy's sword is about to strike Luffy's head, it's on the chopping block, and then bam, lightning comes down, striking the whole platform, knocking it to the ground. It's almost as if Zeus was looking down and was like, I like this guy, let's keep him around. The platform goes up in flames, Buggy's extra crispy, and Luffy's just laughing his ass off because, you know, almost dying is just absolutely hilarious when you're made out of rubber. Then the crowd starts to form, probably wondering if they just witnessed a miracle or if they just witnessed the dumbest luck. But the fun's not over yet, because the Marines decide to show up and crash the party. And by Marines, I mean one. His name is Smoker, where he can just turn into smoke and he has as much humor as a wet blanket. This guy is after Luffy, and he's probably thinking to himself, wow, another idiot pirate decides to show up in Logue Town? Now we've got a whole chase scene going on, with Luffy running like his ass is on fire, which it probably is because of the lightning. I wouldn't be shocked. The whole crew is trying to get back on the ship, and it's kind of like a, what is it called? A Benny Hill sketch, but with more collateral damage and way more jail time. And in the middle of all this chaos, guess who decides to show up? A guy in a green cloak, looking all mysterious and shit. He stops Smoker right in his tracks, giving Luffy and his gang enough time to get out of there. Who is this guy? What the hell is his deal, and why is he there? Hell if I know, but I bet you're wondering why. And it's gonna eat you up inside. By some miracle, or some really shoddy marine work, Luffy and the crew get back to their ship, they set sail for the Grand Line, and leave Logue Town in their wake. Luffy is standing there like a maniac, already forgetting that he was almost executed, and everybody's looking at him like he's crazy. Let's be honest, he probably is. So there you have it, folks. Our merry band of misfits is setting sail for the Grand Line. All it took was a rubber-brained captain, a swordsman with a sense of direction worse than a drunk pigeon, a thief with trust issues, a liar with a nose longer than his accomplishments, and a cook who would probably flirt with a sea king if it wore a skirt. They've been through hell and back. They've fought clowns, fishmen, and their own demons. And now they're setting sail for the biggest clusterfuck in the ocean. The Grand Line's waiting, and it's got more mysteries than Zoro's got abs. But you know what? I think that these idiots might have a shot. And as Luffy said, I don't want to conquer anything. I just think the guy with the most freedom in this whole ocean is the king. God help us all.